Hello and welcome to Ready Bet Action. Today we are diving into the Big 12. This is our conference. I am joined, of course, by Mike Smith and Eric Doran. And today we have a very special guest from DNVR. You can find him at the Buffs DNVR podcast, Jake Schwanitz. You can find him on Twitter at JakeDNVR. Jake, it is a real pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing today, man?
Fantastic, man. Always ready to talk CU Buffs with some diehards and talk some Big 12 football. I mean, shoot, we're in camp. We're rolling right now, so I'm ready for it all.
Yeah, and we definitely want to hear your CU insight. But before we jump into that, I'm just curious, what is a storyline in the Big 12 outside of CU that you're kind of intrigued by? Kind of like you said, going into camp, we're so close to week 0. I'm getting excited.
Yeah, about a month away. Really, for me with this conference, honestly, it reminds me of the Pac-12 2 years ago with how many quarterbacks are in this thing. So to me, that's one thing that was really going to drive this conference in terms of how people, I think, respect it, how they talk about it this year. And I think they'll end up watching a lot more and enjoying watching Big 12 football this year because when you have guys like Sawyer Robertson, you have Devin Dampierre, the guys at Colorado, Avery Johnson, like, and the list goes on and on and on too. I just want to see which guys emerge, which guys can carry their team. I'm a big draft nut too, so I get into all the scouting and evaluation stuff. So that's kind of where my, real attention is right now in terms of the conference overall.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We were talking about Connor Wegman right before this show, Stefan and I. It's like, man, there are quarterbacks up and down these teams right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh, go ahead. I was just to say, like, some of the teams are not expected to even be very good, but they've got quarterbacks that have interesting storylines. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting to see what happens at the quarterback position. Is there a team in particular whose quarterback you're most excited about when you talk about, like, from a draft lens?
I mean, there's a couple really. Avery, can he put it all together? Can he, just be a cleaner passer? I think that's something you want to see. Sawyer Robertson too. I mean, he really impressed me last year. I can't remember. It might have been Utah actually, who they played before Colorado last year, and he kind of came in and replaced. I think it was Finn at the time, right? And then Colorado had him that first game, the first game he started, and I mean, we all know what happened in that game, right? So, can he kind of replicate what he did for that team? And kind of, Baylor has those years every now and then, right? 10, 11 wins, a sneak into the playoff every now and then, or New Year's Six, whatever it is. So those two in particular, I mean, I want to see if Sam Levitt can live up to the hype too without Cam Scatterbo. When you lose 1,700 rushing yards, 2,000 all-purpose yards, and damn near 30 touchdowns, that's tough to replace. So let's see if he can do that too.
Man, anytime you lose a dude who's like throwing up on the sidelines and then going back into the game and about to beat the big bad SEC, like, yeah, man, they're gonna lose a lot. We'll get to that though for sure about what we think about Arizona State.
Yeah, Sam Levitt's a guy I can't wait to talk about because his numbers were actually pretty crazy last year. Yeah. But before we dive into how we're going to break this episode down, we're going to kind of go through the teams by the teams with the highest win total projections and then work our way down. One of the interesting things to me about the Big 12, you talked about the depth of quarterback play. And I think for people who are looking for the next NFL star, maybe not in the Big 12, but as far as like extremely good college quarterbacks, yeah, there's a lot of them here. And I think it shows up when you look at the win totals. Every team in the Big 12 is between 5.5 and 8.5 on the win totals, which just screams parity. So if you think you know who's going to win this conference, I think that's pretty incredible because last year, Arizona State was picked last. They end up winning the thing. I was huge on Utah last year, and we all know they had a bit of a slip up. So much intriguing. Mikey, what are you most excited about for this upcoming season outside of being on the sidelines at Rice-Eccles?
Man, I'm excited to see if all this money at Texas Tech is going to do anything. There's so much that's been put into that. It's just a lot of new players to put some consistency together to really make a run in such a short period of time. We'll obviously talk about that here in a bit, but that's an intriguing storyline for me right now.
Eric, what's your big one for the Big 12?
Man, honestly, I was actually gonna say the same thing. I'm just gonna steal that, man. Like $55 million to infuse into a roster that, like, look, man, like, I was a prime skeptic. I was a coach prime skeptic. Trust me, this is coming around to Texas Tech. I was a coach prime skeptic until about game 5 or 6 of last year. Like, I was excited about him, all that stuff. I think Coach Prime proved that you can actually turn over an entire roster and have success. So I'm with you, Mike, on that. Like, I think that should be everyone's concern, but I actually think that with coaching and like the number of stars that Texas Tech has, like, I do think it's one of the bigger experiments we're going to see in college football this year with Texas Tech. However, like, I have a lot of confidence that Texas Tech is probably going to be the team sitting in the Big 12 championship game. I don't know who else is going to make it, but like, that's a lot of money. If you go look at their transfer portal and the amount of stars and names they freaking stole Cash Cleveland from us, anyway, like that's probably like the lowest guy they got. Like, they stole so many people and have so many transfers coming in. I think Tech, man, it's going to be the ultimate college football experiment. Can you just like go drop money on a team in one season and have your whole program all of a sudden be a powerhouse? And I think the answer might be yes. So,
I mean, I am on the over, so I'm intrigued by it, but also like, I think it's going to work at least to some degree.
Yeah. Let's start with Texas Tech before we jump into CU, because they are the team. They're sitting right there at 8.5, the over at -150. So they are the most favored team to they have the best odds to win the conference. Jake, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Texas Tech? The over sitting here at -150. So there is value if you want to play the under and think maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe it's more like a Florida State situation with the transfer market not working out as they're hoping. But what are your thoughts on Texas Tech? Of course, Morton, the quarterback there. Taj Brooks is gone. That's a huge hole to fill on a team. What are you thinking here?
I mean, really, I'm kind of torn, honestly. I could totally see them, kind of doing what Coach Prime did at an accelerated rate, as you guys are talking about, flipping over the roster. They brought in some blue chippers, man. I mean, this defense is going to be so good. One of the best in the country, probably one of the best in the conference, too. And that's really going to be their calling card, which is going to be different for a Texas Tech team, right? You think Texas Tech, I think, Mike Leach, Michael Crabtree, just putting up numbers, throwing the ball around the yard. Speaking of all that, that's the last time they won 10 games, though, too. So
whoa,
I'm on
good.
both sides where it's like I can see why some would believe in them because of the players they brought in, and it's a ton of talent. They're going to be a better football team. But does it all gel together? Is Joey McGuire the guy that can make it all work and microwave the process in such a short period of time? And as you mentioned, I mean, Taj Brooks, I think of Texas Tech's offense last year. I thought of him first. I didn't think of Baron Morton and the receivers. I thought of their running game, and that's how Colorado won that game too. They went and shut down Taj Brooks. So they have some questions in my mind. Can Baron Morton take them there too? And what I just said with all the quarterbacks, if I stack them up, man, I mean, he's around halfway, around 8th at best for me, So I'm really conflicted, to be completely honest. Defensively, they're going to be really good, but other than that, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, the Morton situation does make me nervous as well. So here's something that's awesome. One of my girlfriend's best friends is cousins with Joey McGuire. So he's practically my best friend.
That's
so
family.
we do like Texas Tech. But no, to your point, it's been a while since they've done it. Another thing that people may not realize, because they're in the headlines with all these flashy money moves, a lot of that we're not going to see for a year or two because they use it on the recruiting trail too. And these guys haven't joined the team. So yes, they have a great transfer portal class. But I really think where you're going to see Texas Tech make some big gains is 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when the roster is really starting to gel. So to your point, like, can they pull it off? I don't have a play on them. I kind of lean to the over, but I like other teams more. So I'm not playing this one. Mike, you said you had a play on this, and I know, Eric, you have one too. Eric, you said you like them to maybe make the conference championship game. Is that an official for you?
Yeah, that's one of my official plays today is for Texas Tech to win. Oh no, sorry. It is not to win the Big 12. I think there is a world where, look, in all likelihood, the Big 12 gets one college football playoff team, but there's a world where they get two, and that's if Texas Tech makes the Big 12 championship game and then loses because Texas Tech has like 10 wins at that point. So I like to make the college football playoff better for Texas Tech than I do for them to win the Big 12, just because of like, I think there's two scenarios they can make it. So give me that. It's at plus 410. And like, that's nice. Is my like to make the playoff, like big juicy bet of the day. Everything else is kind of talking about win totals, but Texas Tech to make the college football playoff, I think that's really good value at plus 410 because I think they can do it in two ways.
I do love that our first play of the day is a plus 410. Look at
Yeah,
that here. That's just ridiculous.
I'm feeling good though. I made my first football bet of the season tonight on this Hall of Fame game. That's when we're recording this. Hit that. Did I crush that first half over? Like, I'm feeling great. So let's go with it with the plus 410.
Nice. Mikey, you've got to play on this too. You said you're on the win total?
Yeah, I'm on the win total, going over the 8.5 games there. They pull Kansas State, Utah, and Arizona State, but they pull them all on the road, which means all of their toss-up games are at home. They start out the season against Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon State. Like, it's a soft opener. They got the 3 toughest games on the road, and then they pull Oklahoma State, BYU, UCF, West Virginia to close the season. I think that the schedule is lining up in their favor, that even if they do struggle a little bit offensively, they really have a really good shot to hit this. And I was surprised offensively last year. They were number 4 in the country in points scored and 7th in yards or yards gained. So I think there are some question marks, but I think everything is kind of planned up favorable for them to really get to 9 wins pretty easily here.
I like that a lot. All right, let's take a quick break from these 8.5 teams because I want to jump to CU now. This is why we've got you here, Jake. I want to hear everything there is to know about CU. I was listening to the show today, the DNVR Buffs podcast, and y'all were talking about Omarion, and I want to hear it from you, man. I know you guys are excited. There's so much lost production from all these guys going to the pros, but that doesn't mean that what we have, we being CU, doesn't mean we don't have weapons out there. So talk to us a little bit about these skill position guys and who we need to be excited about.
Colorado's just going to have one of the best wide receiving cores in college football again. I mean, it's just a fact. Omari Miller's probably going to be the guy. He's been going on an absolute tear to start camp. And if you remember, the USC game, of course, 2 years ago, and the K-State game, he was the one who kind of put the team on his back and then, of course, got injured in that K-State game. So he's ready to go, man. He's recovered. He's looking like wide receiver 1 out there. Draylon Miller is going to be a monster too. Joseph Williams, the AAC Freshman of the Year, is coming in as well. They have high hopes for him. Sincere Brown is transferring up from Campbell. 6'5", almost 200-pound wide receiver with length and speed. And freshman too. I mean, this team, that's the thing that not many people talk about, is they quietly have been building talent and stacking talent over the last 2.5, 3 years. They brought in a lot of guys who are going to contribute this year, who have been with the program for 3 years. They haven't left yet since the Coach Prime era. Arden Walker on defense is one. But Omarion is another. He's been there since his 3rd year now in the program, and he's decided to stick around. It's going to pay off this year. So they're going to be explosive with the wide receivers. I do think they have quarterbacks to get them the ball. It's really just dependent on who actually walks out there for the first snap against Georgia Tech. I think that's when we find out. I would not expect an announcement on the quarterback up until then, frankly. But this offense, I think that in terms of the passing attack, it's going to be hard to reach those heights of last year, but they have the potential to do that if everything shakes out at quarterback. So really, it's just about the running game and protecting the quarterback. That's really the questions offensively for CU.
Yeah, you mentioned protecting the quarterback. I expect the offensive line, especially the tackles, to be a real strength for this CU team. Of course, Seton was a highly touted recruit, and he's lived up to the billing here. And I think he's made his intentions clear. Like, he wants to be like the best. Do you think that they can do enough? You also mentioned the quarterbacks, whether it's Juju or Salter. Do you think they'll be able to protect? And also, Shador did like to hang on to the football a little bit. I imagine we'll see some variety there as well, some changes. So do you think the offensive line will be able to hold up against, a Big 12 schedule? Like, CU schedule is kind of tough, if we're honest. It's no cakewalk. It's probably one of the toughest Big 12 schedules out there, actually.
Totally. They do get a lot of their tough games at home in the conference this upcoming season, but they kind of, hit all the contenders. They're going to have to play them all. I think they dodged Baylor. Really, that's the only one, though. BYU's taken a hit since then. But, protecting the quarterback, I do think this offensive line is better. I think that, their weakness really over the last couple of years was the interior of the offensive line, those guards and the center. And they're going to be much bigger at those positions this year. They're going to be much more experienced at those positions this year, too, guard in particular. So I do think that you're going to see an improved football team in general, improved offense that just flows and works better. I mean, you mentioned Shador and whatever his issues were. I mean, maybe he, threw the ball too much on RPOs, and he did hold the ball quite a bit sometimes and took some unnecessary sacks that got him into trouble. But this team's going to run the football better, I believe. I think that they do have a better offensive line. And I think Pat Shermer's got more help. I mean, Byron Leftwich was just announced on the staff to help, coach the quarterbacks. And he's definitely going to have a say in the offense. Coach Prime loves that collaborative process with all his coaches. And Brett Bartolone's passing game coordinator. So they've got so many minds in the room to make this thing work, so much experience in terms of the staff and players. I can't help but think they're going to be improved in those departments where they've really lacked the last couple seasons.
Yeah, Eric, you often talk a lot about their defensive coordinator, Robert Livingstone, who's kind of underrated. What is it that you like about him so much, Eric?
Just that he's like the fucking man. Like, I don't know. I love Robert Livingston. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm like, man, Prime with all these health issues and stuff. Like, I think he's the heir apparent and like the obvious like next head coach of CU football. Because I just have a theory that Prime's not going to make it through a 5-year contract, whether it's health issues or other, factors for him. So I think Livingston is like being groomed to be the next head coach at Colorado, which we'll see if I can call my shot on that or not. He is awesome. And I think the reason he's not leaving is because he's working with Prime, but he has just stepped this defense up in a whole nother way. This is the deepest roster that CU has had in the Prime era. And that is largely on the defensive line that Robert Livingston's going to get to play with. And like, he has had to kind of dance around, not a lot of depth there, last year. And I know that we had different DC the year before that, but I just think this is the deepest team we've had. You have DJ McKinney, who's like, guys, this guy's is a first round cornerback. Like, he's going to get picked in the first round. Like, he is the next great corner coming out of CU. Like, they're not like scrubs on this CU team. And I really think this 5.5 line are a bunch of haters. And like, I think I've gone on a rant with Stefan about this, about when I'm just like a full homer, CU everything. Like, I have just not seen more hater shit than I have in between, like in this off season. And it's like, it's driving me nuts. Look, man, I don't think CU should be projected at like 9 wins or anything crazy like that, but 5.5 is like downright insulting because it's the same people who are like driving that line down. They're the same people who were like, well, Travis and Shador weren't really that good and they were overhyped and they won their awards because Shador padded his stats and held onto the ball and like didn't throw picks. And Travis, like, oh, snaps isn't a real stat line. So you had all these people pumping all this up about how Shador and Travis aren't that good and aren't really that great. They're the same people now who are saying, well, CU's not going to be good because they don't have Travis and Shador. So what is it, man? Like, are they not good or are they? Like, so anyways, haters everywhere. I just think this is a 7-9 win football team.
And so,
and yeah. I could I have like a million things I could keep ranting about, but I'll stop before I get like before my kids are like, "What's wrong, Dad?" Yeah.
so you, Eric, you are on over 5.5. It's an official play.
Absolutely, I think this is a 7-9 win football team. Especially the Georgia Tech game for me was kind of more of a toss-up game, but I will be betting on CU straight up now because of the Prime news. He's already a guy you kind of run through a wall for, but now it's a Friday night in Boulder, 7 p.m., 6 p.m. game. And like, your coach just coached through cancer to get you on the field. Like, what? I don't care who Georgia Tech's rolling out there, man. Like, that is a win. So I'm very confidently on the over 5.5. Yeah. Like, I was a little more like, could we like be more of like a, like, could we at 5 as our floor? And I was like, maybe because Georgia Tech or whatever, because I was looking at the schedule. But now that I think we're going to win that game, I feel really confident about seven wins as our floor for this team. So again, I'm a homer. I'm wearing a freaking jersey, like the whole thing. But that's what I'll be betting. But I think CU fans, and Jake, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember listening to the DNVR guys the last 2 seasons, and I feel like everyone is like CU fans in particular have been crushing this over number the last 2 seasons. And I really think it's because the line gets set as a hater number. That's just what I think. So,
I mean, I've won a lot of money on CU win totals and
right.
Especially bet in that first game the last 2 years. So yeah, definitely.
Where are you on the win total for this year, Jake? Are you on the over 5.5 as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is a bowl team for sure. They have questions, and it's kind of what I mean. We were just talking about, like a lot of those questions. I think do still revolve around Shador and Travis, and I think a lot of people outside of CU, honestly, are having a hard time accepting the reality that they're just not here anymore. Like it's not a
Yeah.
factor anymore. Like there's other people on the roster. There's guys who have been here a long time. I think that they'll be fine at quarterback. They might end up picking one guy later in the year. They might end up going back and forth early on, but I just think that this team, it's going to be a lot like last year, where the defensive line, this defense is going to help carry this team, and they're going to score enough points to hang with whoever.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And I just want to drive the nail home. 19th in transfer portal. They are the second ranked transfer portal team, right behind, like not right behind. Texas Tech was number 2. They are above Alabama and Georgia. They are bringing, and go look at do yourself a favor, like look up those rankings and look up the beef they brought in on the offensive line. Someone told me, this needs to get fact checked, I'm going to say it anyways, that we are the biggest offensive line by weight in the country now. So again, probably needs a fact check, but when I go look at these and I see a dude who's 6'5", 315, 6'7", 348, like these are the dudes who came in, and we have depth on an offensive line now, which we haven't had for years,
I love it. One more connection that we have with you, Jake, is Mikey is out in Utah right now. Eric is in Albuquerque. You're from Albuquerque. You went to UNM. Now half of UNM is going to Utah to join Mike. So this is just a whole grand experiment that we're doing. But I do kind of love that Utah is willing. Coach Witt is willing to kind of reinvent the program this far in. Sounds like he's going to give the keys to the offense to Beck. We're going to see a new quarterback. I know you've got a little bit of knowledge on some of these guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Utah as a whole. And then I want to hear you other gentlemen talk about Utah as well, because this is a team that is super intriguing to me after a really surprising year last year. Just so many injuries. It was just unreal. So what are your thoughts for Utah for the year, Jake, and specifically looking at the UNM guys that are coming over?
Yeah, I mean, I like Utah for this year. I think that last year was more so, an aberration as it is, what it's going to be moving forward. What Whittingham's done for that program, I mean, that doesn't just fall apart over a year, especially when your starting quarterback is fighting through an injury to get back. For the first game, he doesn't play that great the first couple games, and then he gets hurt and he's lost again. They just went through a lot, man. And so I think that, Dan Pierre especially, he kind of reminds me of what the Tyler Huntley teams used to do a few years ago. And I mean, you can let me know if there's maybe another quarterback who fits that comparison better. But when I think of those teams, I mean, Cam Rising too, he was a mobile guy. He ran around and did a lot of stuff. I think what they're going to be able to do with bringing that OC and quarterback combination over from New Mexico is kind of lean into that even more. I mean, you look at Dan Pierre's stats from last year, the passing stats don't really wow you, but you look at the rushing stats and then you fully get the picture, what they're trying to do offensively. And I think that you just got to lean into that. You can't go away from that if you're Utah and you're Kyle Whittingham. You got to lean into Dan Pierre's strengths. I fully expect him to throw the football around too. But I think you're going to see a lot of, kind of read option, just running around with the quarterback type of stuff, playing 11 on 11 football. So, yeah, I do think that, it does suck that UNM's program kind of got gutted, but it is what it is. Honestly, UNM's they haven't stepped up to the plate for football for 20 plus years. So, we'll see what happens to them, but Utah is going to be back, I think, this year.
It's because we're all broke and live in Albuquerque.
I do feel like Beck and Dan Pierre will be able to complement the strengths of Utah, which I do think are, on that defensive line. Mike, what are some of your thoughts? Again, we don't, place bets on Utah, but what are your thoughts on Utah, being in the city, going to, the games? What's the excitement level like there? And where are you leaning here?
Man, there's a lot of hype here. Last year was just painful. I mean, they were they had the worst passing grade in the Power 4 last year at 48.4 according to PFF. The entire quarterback room has been revamped, even behind Dan Pierre. Isaac is still there, but he's not going to be playing. You've got an entirely brand new running back room, not a single running back return. Tobias Merriweather, former 5-star guy, I think he was, from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Speedster on the outside, man. He's going to be a huge addition. it's just going to be a new look offense with a very similar defense. You know, we lost a couple of big guys. Cam Calhoun's a big one that jumps out with Alabama now, but this defense is who they are every single year, and that doesn't change. So I think you get a little bit better efficiency and production on the offensive side. It could be a really exciting year, especially behind the offensive line, you know, top 5 unit in the country right now. Like it could be a very, very different offensive team that actually puts up a lot of points this year and doesn't exactly have to slow the game down to get a win. So I'm psyched, man. I'll be at Rose Bowl Stadium for week 1. Excited to be there for that one. And it's going to be a fun year.
Yeah. Another team that doesn't necessarily have the benefit of an easy schedule. They have not only, you know, the non-con with traveling to UCLA, but, you know, they have kind of a rough schedule. Eric, any
all
thoughts?
The hard ones are at home, though. So that is a massive win, especially in Rice Eccles if you pull a night game.
Yeah, when Rice Eccles is bumping too, it's a tough place to play. Eric, any thoughts on Utah?
I think Utah's just like a bounce back year, and like I do think Rice Eccles it has been for what Whittingham's whole career the hardest place to get a win for visiting teams, and I think that's gonna like really be recaptured this year. It's gonna be tough. Dampierre, I went to a lot of UNM games last year living here, and like if you want a comp that I like for him, that don't laugh. Because these are 2 Heisman winners. I don't think he's going to win a Heisman. I like him compared to like a Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray. Like he's in the sense that he's a playmaker. Like you think the play's dead and he pops out of like 5 guys and runs out and makes a play. And you're like, what the hell happened? And that's why his passing stats aren't going to be prolific passing, but he makes plays that you're like, that was the most frustrating thing that could have happened to my team. If you're playing against him, you're going to be like, God damn it, how did that dude get away and like make a play? So that's who Dampierre is to me. At least watching him last year, he was really fun at UNM. But other than that, I just think it's a big bounce back year for Utah. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Dampierre had 31 touchdowns passing and rushing combined last year, and that you can't coach instinct. Like It's just not a teachable trait. So could be fun.
Could be a lot of fun. And it's not like Utah's a stranger to scoring points. They've had some pretty prolific offenses themselves. Mm-hmm. Let's roll back into kind of the flow here. Let's go back to some of these teams that have a win total up in the 8.5. Let's keep it going with the teams with win totals over 8.5. Jake, before you have to leave us, let's talk about Kansas State. They're over and under, both right at minus 110. So it's kind of 50-50 here on the 8.5. Where do you lean with this team? This is a team that I think most of us last year had kind of penciled in for that Big 12 conference game at least. The wheels kind of fell off. Avery Johnson, not quite as consistent as we hoped. Maybe we were just hyped up a year too early. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. Where are you with this Kansas State team?
I'm about the same. I mean, Avery was really, really young last year. You know, he did play a little bit as a true freshman when Will Howard was going through some injuries and stuff, but I think that he looks different too. We went to Big 12 media about a month ago, and he just looks older. I think this year is really going to benefit him. I think he learned a lot last year, and they pulled out some tough wins. I mean, the Colorado game specifically, man, that was big time from Avery, and he was hurt in that game too. I really came away impressed with him from that game. So I think he's really the driving force behind me believing in them. I think they'll win this conference, to be straight up personally with you guys. It's a team that has one of the better middle linebackers in the country, Austin Romaine. He's going to be just a tackling machine out there. He was a pre-conference selection for K-State. Dylan Edwards with the speed. I can't remember the receiver's name right now. They get him back as well. Like, it's kind of like Utah, man, where it's like they just play a style of football, and they're always going to make you defend all 11 players on offense. They're going to get after you on defense. It's just I don't expect much fall off from them, honestly. If anything, I think they're just going to be better. I fully expect them to be in Dallas playing for the title, when we get the championship week.
You mentioned Dylan Edwards, and I don't know, a lot of times when a player transfers away from my school, whether it's CU or Oregon, I kind of hate them just a tiny bit. But with Dylan Edwards, I'm just rooting for him because I loved his speed and just what he brought to the offense when he was at CU. How do you feel about him?
I mean, great player, great kid too. I always love talking to him. He's just awesome, man. So It's going to be interesting. I do think if I remember correctly, I think they brought in another running back. I can't remember the name right now. So we'll see if he's able to really be, the full-time starter, the full-time guy, and handle a workload like that. Because, last year they had Giddens and he did really well, got a lot of work. Dylan got his as well. But I don't know if, Dylan's really honestly kind of built to handle the ball 300 times in a season, and that's fine. Especially in this day and age of college football and a program like K-State where they've shown they can get those type of guys to football. They can, put them at returner and figure out ways to get them involved in the game as well. So I'm excited for Dylan. I share the same kind of feelings as you. I mean, it is what it is with the transfer portal, right? But Dylan's always going to be one of my favorite players as long as he's going. So, yeah, I expect a big year from him. Hopefully he gets it more going in the passing game too, because I really want to see him kind of make it, go to the NFL.
Yeah, the talent's definitely there. I do have an official play. I'm right there with you, Jake. I'm on Kansas State on the over 8.5 wins. I think between the talent on this roster and the schedule, yeah, there's some weirdness having to travel to Ireland week 0. That could be kind of tough. But I like how the schedule breaks for them. I think they're going to be favored in almost every game they're playing. So give me over 8.5. That's an official play for me. Eric, Mike, I don't think either of you guys have a play on Kansas State, but do you have some thoughts before we move on?
Yeah. My only thought is it's a brutal way to end the season. Kansas, Texas Tech, Utah, and Colorado in 4 of the last 5 weeks. If they don't start out strong, if Avery doesn't improve as a passer, that could bite them in the butt down the road. But I mean, all the talent's there. I think it just falls on what does Avery actually do this year. And I lean over. I just don't have an official play on it.
Yeah, I just find the dynamic very interesting of like when the Big 12 kind of like Texas, Oklahoma left, like, who are we looking at as like the big bads of the Big 12 of who are going to be like the long-term kind of more dominant teams. And I think I think Kansas State could be one of those teams. I think Texas Tech and Utah could also be those teams. And so I think it'll be really interesting if Kansas State can kind of seize that mantle. I have a lot of skepticism about Avery Johnson. I have maybe friends that I just get a little too biased about who are like, they at least claim to be close to the program and have some stories about how he got that starting job and how he kind of forced Will Howard out. And I don't like that. I don't like his attitude and how he kind of got his way into that position, even if he was their most talented recruit of all time, which I know he is. I tend to think, I don't know if he has it in his brain, man. I don't know if he's a smart football player yet. And I think that's where he makes his next step. And if he does, I mean, I honestly don't think they need that to hit the over 8.5, though. I think he can take like a half a step forward and they'll be very good. So I'm not a big Avery Johnson believer yet, but I still think the over is probably a better play than the under for sure. So
some serious Friday Night Lights vibes right there, man. That was such a good show, by the way, but we don't have to get into it. Jake, thank you so much. Again, people can find Jake on Twitter at JakeDNVR. He is one of the hosts of the DNVR Buffs podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Jake. Appreciate it. We're going to keep rolling here, but thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, guys, it was a lot of fun. Just hit me up anytime. We'll do it again.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
See you, Jake.
All right, see you guys.
All right, we've got one more team in that 8.5 win total, and I'm talking about defending Big 12 champions, Arizona State, whose last game against Texas was a heartbreaker, and your boy missed it because I was walking the streets of San Francisco with my girl, and I was like, this is going to be a blowout. Texas is going to destroy them. And then you two jokers were texting me, and I had to sneak into a bar to watch the end of it because I was like, oh, my God, this is insane. So I probably jinxed Sam Levitt and the boys. We talked about it a little bit with Jake while he was here. Arizona State, man, they lose Cam Scatavo, but they're bringing back Sam. Eric, you have an official play on Arizona State, so I'm going to swing it over to you. I have thoughts, but I want to hear you. See if you can sway me because I was leaning under. I had it as an official play, did some research, changed my mind, but you are on the under, so let's hear it.
I got them under 8.5 because I can't get to 9 wins very confidently on their schedule, but like they might sit at 8. Like you're going to be sweating this at 8 wins, but I do think it's an official pick for me because of the schedule. I think there's a lot of carryover hype from last year. They almost beat Texas. Scatteroo is gone. That dude literally carried them to wins last year. And that's that's hard to replace, right? Like, I think that's a really hard dynamic to replace. I think Sam Levitt's going to be good, but does he have his guy next to him that he can dump it off to and like hand the ball to? Maybe they replace that. But here's why. So I also think Dillingham's the real deal. I have to redeem myself from last year. If you go back to last year's preseason Big 12 show, if you want the most freezing cold takes about me shitting on Dillingham and Arizona State and Cam Scatterbo, like we can go pull clips. It's embarrassing how wrong I was. So,
but everyone was wrong, Eric.
Yes,
everyone
I know. They were the
wrong.
lowest. They were projected at like 3.5 wins last year, and they were the lowest team, and then they win the whole thing. So Dillingham's legit. I just want to say it this year. I have a hard time getting past 8 wins because they have a 6-game stretch in the middle of their season that is at Baylor, TCU, at Utah, Texas Tech, at Iowa State. Those are the games that I feel like are 5 of the 6 losable games. They have someone else like West Virginia mixed in there too. That I'm like, man, I don't know how they get through that stretch like very unscathed. And then at the end of the season, they end with CU at Boulder. So if CU has a good season, you got to go to Boulder at the end of the season where whoever the quarterback is now fully warmed up and like we're ready to go. And then you end with Arizona, a rivalry game. So like, I don't like that Arizona State game is just like a Red River rivalry, just on a much smaller scale. Like you don't know how that game's going to go and Arizona State to win. So I just can't get really confidently to 9 wins.
I tend to agree. It's not an official play. I lean under because Scatterbo accounted for 40% of the yards last year. I think it was 39% was the actual number there. That's just a lot of yardage to recover. Now, granted, Sam Levitt, I think he is going to be the real deal and continue to improve. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, is an absolute monster. He's the second in wide receivers returning yards gained last year, next to only Jeremiah Smith. So, like, the dude can play ball. However, defenses are going to be lined up very differently this year. I wonder how much that plays into it, plus that 6-game stretch you were talking about, Eric. I don't think they have a ton of room for error to hit 9 wins. Yeah. And they've got to be almost perfect in a lot of ways to win the expected games and not drop any. So I lean under, but I'm a big fan of Levitt and Tyson, so I'm not making an official play in case they do continue to absolutely boom.
So something that's kind of funny, I do a lot of like college dynasty fantasy football, and USC had this running back 4-star guy that I was really excited about, recruited heavily. His name's Raleek Brown. And yeah, he's at Arizona State now, baby. So there will be no drop off from Cam Scatterbo. Raleek Brown is going to justify my pick, and I'm going to roll.
He also a puker?
Until he goes to the sideline, throws up, stretches out his cramps, and gets back in there. I am not buying in.
I went into my research on Arizona State fully expecting to take the under. And then I talked to my boy Travis May. We used to do the Total College Football show. And in his quarterback efficiency model, last year, Sam Levitt ranked 6th behind Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Rourke, Gabriel, and Howard. So, like,
wow,
he was legit. He is the number 1 returning Power 4 conference player when it comes to quarterback efficiency. I fully expect Arizona State, because of, like you said, Dillingham is a fantastic coach. I think it's interesting, like, Dante Moore, who is Oregon's quarterback, left Oregon to go to UCLA because Dillingham wasn't going to be there. You know, like, he is an offensive guru. I fully expect them to get everything out of their players, but I don't feel confident enough to take the over. I'm just not playing the under. So I was thinking I was going to take the under. I'm definitely not taking the over after hearing you guys talk. So we're just going to avoid.
They've got to improve in the red zone too. 122nd red zone scoring last year. Ooh. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they snuck some wins, man. They had some good breaks last year. That being said, I want to know like how fast Dillingham ends up in the SEC after this season.
Who knows, man? If they start running the Big 12.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know, man. I don't know if the money's there. I could see him leaving pretty quick, but yeah, props to him for sure. He's a really good coach, and he emerged really quickly.
And he seems like a good dude. Let's move on to the game. The teams in the 7.5 win total. We already covered Utah at the top of the show. none of us have an official play on Baylor. This is a team that I am super curious about.
Yes.
Jake mentioned Sawyer Robertson, who really came on last year, over 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns. He looks extremely good. The running backs are hopefully going to be good. They did struggle a bit last year. It's kind of hard to trust them. The offensive line looks like it could be one of the best in the conference. But, man, this is a really, really tough schedule, right up there with CU's as being one of the toughest schedules in the Big 12. So I don't have a play on Baylor, even though I kind of wanted to take the over.
Yeah, man, Dave Armad's he was like on the hot seat and like almost got fired, and then they won 6 games like in a row last year. So they went from 2-4. I think their last game they lost was against the Buffs, and then they like went on a 6-game tear and won, and ended up with 8 wins. I have Baylor beating Auburn in Baylor. Like, I know y'all probably don't agree with that because you love Auburn, as we talked about on the SEC show, but I will be picking Baylor straight up in that game. I think that is a defensive team that's going to be hard to beat at home in an environment because that is a stout team and a stout coach there. I agree with you. I couldn't play any totals because of the schedule, and I just think there's other people with better schedules to get to like a championship game and other things. I just couldn't get there necessarily. So yeah.
And also playing SMU non-conference makes that win total tough. I could almost see them making the conference game, but going under somehow, getting there at 8-4 or something like that. Mike, what are your thoughts on Baylor?
I just worry about the defense, man. Gave up 400 yards a game last year.
And this is supposed to be Aranda's bag. Like, this is supposed to be what he does.
It is his thing. Dude, I'm telling you, like, I think they turned that around this year. Anyways, yeah, you're right, though. I don't have a lot to back it up.
Maybe they do. They lost. I don't have the guys' names in front of me, but they lost like their 3 best defensive players last year in the transfer portal. And I don't remember them adding much to really make up for that. Bryson Washington, the running back, ran for over 1,000 yards as a redshirt freshman. Like, that's impressive. There's no doubt that they're going to put up a shit ton of points. I just wonder what happens if they get behind. I don't know if this is going to be a team that's going to play well from losing. So I lean over, but definitely no play for me on this one.
Yeah, they didn't. I'm looking now at their transfer portal guys. They definitely added some big dudes on defense. I don't know if they necessarily added like great dudes on defense. Yeah, but they added some size. But yeah, I don't know if they added like a ton of skill. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Iowa State still in that 7.5. The overs at +114. The under to -140. This number feels right to me. 7-8 wins feels right to me. I don't think they're going to deviate much from that. It's crazy, though. Like, this was a really good team. They had their best season ever last year with 11 wins. They bring back their quarterback, and we're leaning under 7.5 somehow in the betting market. It's just wild. Now, they do lose their two wide receivers to the NFL, both of them over 1,100 yards. So that is absolutely crazy.
Only team in the country last year that supported that number from 2 receivers.
And their running game last year wasn't explosive, maybe because their passing game was. But where's the offense going to come from? I think we all would agree that Rocco Becht is a good quarterback. But who, like Chase Sowell from ECU, like, is he going to be able to dominate? Is it going to be enough? Too many questions for me. Also, tough schedule. They have to play at Kansas State in Ireland. They have a couple of tough games. So not picking it. I kind of thought I was gonna go on the over, but no play for me.
I agree. Matt Campbell's a hell of a coach, man. And it's just such a strong culture and defensive squad there. They do miss Utah. They do miss Texas Tech. That's obviously a massive play in their favor. I'm just scared about losing Higgins and Noel. I don't know if they're going to have enough to put enough points up to win enough games. So I leaned over it once again, but still no play.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think their first 3 games will determine how their whole season goes because they get Kansas State. Dude, what is Kansas State doing agreeing to giving up a home game to go play in Ireland? Like, that is such an Iowa State's favor. It's crazy, man.
They got to pay Avery Johnson
a lot of money. Man. Like, it's in Dublin. That is such in Iowa State's favor, in my opinion. I'm not calling my shot they're going to win. I'm just saying, like, all of a sudden, like, I think that's a win. That's a game Iowa State could pull off. And then they play Iowa in week 3, and rivalry stuff is totally unpredictable. But man, if you win both those games, and then like you kind of look at like their schedule is still pretty tough, but I'm like, I actually think those first 2 out of 3 big games are probably going to determine the type of, like, it's either going to be, to me, like, is Iowa State just like a 6 to 7 win bowl team, or are they actually like in the mix to make a Big 12 title game because of those early games and how they do in those games? I would lean that they don't win both of those games. So that's why I would also not bet this.
Right.
If they start 3-0, I think they could be a 9 or 10 win team.
Totally. Exactly. And that's the thing is, like, I'm saying, like, they could start 3-0. I don't think it's crazy. But I think
it's crazy.
I just
I agree. I think it's crazy. That's a big if.
I wouldn't bet it. I just think you get Kansas State in Ireland, and like who knows how that goes.
Yeah. It's going to be fun for sure. I have Kansas State on the side of that one, which is why I'm on that over, and I didn't touch this one. But if Iowa State does pull the W there, that could really flip the switch for both those teams. Let's talk about our last team in this 7.5 tier. We've got the Kansas Jayhawks plus 128 to the over, the under at minus 158. So the betting market is leaning under 7.5. I know one of y'all has a play on this. I believe it's you, Mikey. You're on the under here. Talk me out of Jalen Daniels, who's coming back for his 17th year, and I just know he's going to put it all together this year.
Says every Kyle Pitts owner in fantasy every year. I don't think Daniels is going to have a solid enough season to really continue to do this. The defense was already terrible last year, and they lost their 3 best players. Daniels, he just has too many turnovers. I mean, granted, he loves that deep ball. He had the highest average depth of target in the Power 4 last year, which is going to breed turnovers. And I don't think he's a good intermediate passer. So I think due to Daniels' inconsistencies, that's going to kind of be the ultimate factor for me there. I've got him at 7 wins, and I feel like they'll probably drop 1 or 2 that they showed one in the process if they do what they did last year. So it feels like a 6-win team, maybe a 7-win team, but even if it's a 7-win team, we win. So
I'm not betting it, but I'm with Staph on this one. I think Kansas is actually like a fun team this year that like could be a surprise. And the only reason I'm not betting it is because Jalen Daniels' injury inconsistency is killer, man. He put it together, and of course he did it against CU and knocked us out of the Big 12 championship game, but he did it in like the last 4 or 5 games. And like, here, dude, they're not playing at Arrowhead this year. They have their own stadium and a real home field advantage. They're like top 15 in NIL money, like Kansas is. Like, they've dumped like $450 million into like a program there and like building a stadium, and this is their first year. Dude, I'm so excited for Kansas, like to play Mizzou and Kansas State. I think those are going to be like highlight games that you don't want to turn off this year. That being said, I can't bet this because of Jalen Daniels and inconsistency issues. So
yeah, I mean, they pull Mizzou, they've got Kansas State, they've got Utah, they've got Iowa State, they've got Texas Tech. That's a really hard schedule for a team that gave up 409 yards last year. I think this is another team that will not play well from behind. So I don't know. I can't convince myself to do it.
I hear you. I love Lance Leipold, though.
Yeah.
The head coach is
I agree.
really, really freaking good. When we did our Big Ten, we talked about Penn State and Andy Kotelinski, the offensive coordinator there, who came from Kansas. The person who helped him build out this really unique and fun playbook is Jim Zabrowski, who is now their offensive coordinator, was their quarterbacks coach back then. I think he is going to be an absolute revelation now that Jeff Grimes is gone. I think Kansas could be really, really fun, but I don't like it enough to bet it, especially like talking about their Mikey with their tough schedule. Let's roll on to the teams in the 6.5 win totals range. Let's start just real quick with TCU. I think TCU is a super fun team. None of us have a play on this. I'm super excited to watch Josh Hoover. He's another one of these quarterbacks that we mentioned that could just be really exciting, especially if you're not looking for necessarily an NFL jump, but just enjoy the college game. He averaged over 300 yards per game. He threw 27 touchdowns. I think he could be a dark horse. Yeah, I said it. Big 12 player of the year. I'm not going to go with Heisman, but I could see Hoover being up there as like on the first team, Big 12 team when everything is said and done. Big problem for TCU is their run defense. If you remember that game last year, I think it was against CU, where CU just kept, they weren't even getting touched until they were getting like 8 yards a run. I kind of like TCU, wanted to bet the over. It's at minus 176, not touching that for sure. So I'm just going to avoid.
Yeah, I was on TCU over, but like you said, 176 is brutal. Their schedule to start the season is kind of wild. You've got UNC week 1, week 3 you have SMU. Then
by the way, them against Coach like Belichick to start the year when he's had all offseason to scheme this up, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
But then you go, after once you hit conference play, you go Arizona State, Colorado, Kansas State, Baylor back in 4 straight games. That's brutal. So I think that's why the number is where it's at. However, I think I'm with you on Hoover. I'm in. I think he's going to be great. I think he is going to be why they go over, but at minus 176, you just can't play it.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say, I just throw TCU into that mix. I didn't mention them earlier of like who's going to take the Big 12 mantle as like a powerhouse, and TCU has like the resources and ability to do that. As you can see, they were literally a national championship game just a couple seasons ago.
And Sonny Dykes is still there.
And Sonny Dykes is a really good coach. Their fans are absolute assholes. I went to that game back, Prime's first game against them, and man, I have never been met with such disrespect in a visiting stadium. That being said, I think I'm excited to see what they do, man, and bounce back. Like I think TCU, like I said, I got Texas Tech sitting in the Big 12 championship game, but then I'm looking at like we kind of talked about this in the SEC, but I feel like there's even more in the Big 12. But then I look at like none of it would surprise me to see Kansas State, Arizona State, Utah, Baylor, and TCU. Probably not Kansas, but any of those teams, I would be like not shocked to see them in a Big 12 championship game. That's a lot of teams.
That's a lot of teams. And that's why the Big 12 is so much fun. By the way, you can get 8 or more wins. So instead of 6.5, 7.5 at plus 100 on the alt line. Or alt market. So if that's something, if you are bullish on TCU, that's an interesting way to play it. Mike, you and I disagree about BYU. I'm on the over 6.5 at minus 120. You're at the under minus 102. This started at 7.5 a couple months ago. Now it's down to 6.5. So talk to me. You're still on the under here. You also hate BYU. so tell me
who doesn't, but like, this is real hater. This is real hater time.
Talk to me, Mikey. Talk me out.
I think I hate BYU more than Eric hates Colorado State.
Ooh, that's a
what
lot.
it is. Man, I remember watching BYU last year and thinking all season, I don't understand the hype. And I think a lot of that is because they went 6-1 in 1-score games. They had 6 1-score games. They went 4-2 in 1-score games without Retzlaff. I think they go 0-6 in those games. One of those was to Oklahoma State, who went winless in the conference last year. I just worry that without a decent quarterback, I think Retzlaff was better than he's getting credit for, to be completely honest. Sure. But I think without him, they could struggle a lot early. And the defense, they were great last year. I think they allowed less than 20 points a game. I just don't know if that's going to be enough, AKA look at what Utah did last year to win a significant amount of games. So that's really the only reason why I'm on the under. I was on the fence, and then, I remembered how much I hated BYU, so I had to play it.
No, that's fair. Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to make a terribly inappropriate joke, so maybe I should.
Good thing I interrupted.
Yeah, it might be a good one.
I was on the under when it was 7.5, and then when it dropped to 6.5, and I don't think Retzlaff is worth a full game in the market. So to me, it was almost a value play to buy back in on this side. I think Kalani Sitake is a really, really good football coach. I think he has done a pretty good job. LJ Martin is going to be a stud running back, and he's going to have to be because they're going to have to rely on him a lot while they try to figure out who's going to play quarterback. I don't know. I disagree, I suppose, on the value Retzlaff brought to this team. I think it was a fun story. I think the whole BY Jew thing that he was cool with being called as well. Like, I think that was part of, like, the story made him better than he actually was. Yes, it sucks that he left, especially at the timing where he had to leave. But, you know, I think Chase Roberts, they get him involved really creatively as their number one as the number one wide receiver there. So to me, it's kind of a value play. So I'm going on the over 6.5 because it did drop. Should we move on to Cincinnati, our last team in a 6.5? Mike, I know you have another play on Cincinnati. I was a full avoid. Nothing interesting to say at all for me about Cincinnati until I was listening to the Solid Verbal podcast today, which is freaking awesome, by the way. And they were reminding me that Satterfield is still the coach there. And I think that might be short-lived because I do think this could be a rough year for them. I think Walker's going to be really good for them. But this schedule, although it's not that tough of a schedule, I don't think Cincinnati's good enough to get there. So why am I right, Mikey?
Because they suck. Like, I don't.
You're not buying into Sorsby?
No, I mean, yes, he's going to be great. I just don't think that he by himself is going to be able to win enough games for this to hit. You know, I think they lose in Nebraska week 1. And then once they start conference play, I think they lose at the very least the first 2. And then you've still got to go to Utah. You've got to play TCU. You've got to play Baylor. Like, it's a big ask for a team that doesn't have a lot of talent, that didn't do enough in the offseason to improve. They only scored 24 points a game last year while allowing 25 points a game last year. It's just not a ton of talent here, man. So this is kind of one of those, like, gut feelings. So if you don't want to tail it, like, fine, have fun, but they're really bad.
I can dig it.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, except Cincinnati to me feels like a team that if they're not careful, if their boosters don't, I hate that this is what it is. 'Cause I think Cincinnati had those years where they were literally like back in the, you know, FBS bowl games or whatever, you know, and they were in New Year's games and day games and stuff like that. But it's like they were doing that because, like, recruiting could work. They had they had a cool look and cool uniforms. Their stadium is like hopping. Unfortunately, like, I don't know if they have, like, the school resources that they actually might end up kind of falling to the bottom of the Big 12 and maybe staying there for a while if they don't have some serious money come in. And I kind of see Cincinnati as maybe being on that level. Unfortunately. Well, that's not has anything to do with this year's team. That's my general feeling on Cincinnati and kind of where they're headed.
And they just made the jump, you know, from the group of 5. So it's not surprising to see them struggling here. Let's move over to the teams in the 5.5 range. We already talked about Colorado. Eric very much on the over. Jake was also on the over at -120. So let's move on to the Houston Cougars. Over 5.5 is set at -188. The under at +152. That's really my reasoning for not wanting to bet this. While we're talking here, I'm trying to figure out they're at +100 to win 7 games. That's kind of interesting to me. Willie Fritz is just a really, really good coach coming into his second year here. I think he's building something really exciting at Houston. We talked about their like the second highest quarterback recruit is going to be joining them after this year. So the future looks good. Right now, they're going to be going with Connor Wigman, former 5-star, highly touted quarterback from Texas A&M. I still think he could be really, really good. So much went wrong at Texas A&M for him. A change of scenery, going back home to Houston, where he's from, I think will be really, really good for him. I like I kind of like this team. Not at minus 188, and I'm not at plus 100, not enough to go all the way up to 7. But I like where Houston's at, and I like the future for them. It just might not make sense with where the number's at.
I've heard some people call Houston like this year's Arizona State. Like they could be a team that you're talking about in the mix at the end of the year, and everyone was like, what the heck? Like they were one of the lowest, projected win totals. So yeah, man, I think Houston is a sneaky pick, but I agree with you. It's a lot of juice to pay. Again, everyone knows I don't like betting futures anyways, because I don't like my money existing out in the world for 4 months when I could be using it to make money in my bankroll. So I'm definitely not going to put it on minus 188 for the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's 9 of the expected starters this year are going to be new from transfers. So there's just so much that we don't know what it's going to look like. But they were the Power Four's least efficient offense last year, so it can't get any worse. Quite literally, you bring in that many players, you gotta think it goes up. I really like Tanner Koziel, the tight end there. He had the 3rd most receptions by a tight end in college football last year as a whole. So that's very intriguing. But yeah, I mean, like you guys said, minus 188, you can't do it.
Yeah. The last team that we have a play on, and we'll cover the other teams real briefly if y'all want to, but we do have a play on Arizona. The over is at minus 110, the under at minus 110 here at 5.5. I have an official play on the under here. Everything I just said about Willie Fritz, you can just say the opposite about Brent Brennan. He is not seeing a bunch of success. Yes, Noah Fafita was able to stick around, but he's losing his high school teammate, the number 1 kind of huge star that Arizona has ever had in Tedororo McMillan. I don't see where this offense kind of picks up. I don't assume that Noah Fafita is just going to go back to how he was 2 years ago. Like, to me, I think last year is a more likely outcome than the year before. I think they're really going to struggle to win games, period. Weber State, I think that'll be a win. Hawaii should be a win. But, man, I don't know how their conference record is going to go. I could see them getting real close to an offer on that and getting to 5.5, getting to 6, wins. I just don't see that as a realistic possibility for this Arizona team. So watch them almost beat Texas in the first round of the playoff. I mean, obviously, who knows what's going to happen? But
no chance.
I'm just not in on this Arizona team. It's an official play for me on the under.
I'm not going to contradict what you said about Fafita. I also agree. I don't think he's nearly as good as what he was in that first year under Jed Fish. Who's actually kind of gone up to Washington and done pretty decent. I think he'll do good this year. But anyways, I think Fafita, he might, I don't think he's going to come back to that level, but I think he might benefit. This is a weird thing to say from not having McMillan, because the games I watched of Arizona last year, it was like first look, throw to McMillan and force it to him at all costs is how I felt what I was watching when I watched Arizona. So maybe there's a world where now that he doesn't just have a guy, that he becomes more of a playmaker and spreading the ball around a little more. But that's a big if, and I agree with you generally on everything else you said.
T-Mac had a 31% target share last year. That's a lot of passes to figure out where you
that's a lot of playmaking.
Eric, you bring up Fish going up to Washington, and I remember at the time there was a big story about Fish can't even bring Fafita with him. It makes you wonder if maybe Fish didn't want to bring him with him.
Maybe
I'm not saying, but I'm saying, of course, Washington, one of my dark horse sleepers in the Big Ten. So we've got 2 other teams to talk about. 3 other teams. We've got UCF, which I'm excited about. Scott Frost coming back. UCF is going to be interesting, I think, in the future. I just think it's too early to expect anything this year. But, 41 transfers is an awful lot of new faces on a team. Oklahoma State and West Virginia are also, these 3 teams kind of in the bottom of the barrel of the Big 12 have completely new rosters. Tons of new players through the transfer portal. Really hard to project what's going to happen. I think UCF could become good in the future. I think it'll be a landing spot for like Miami, Florida State, those types of transfers to come in there. So I could see them building something cool in the Frost. I just don't see it this year.
Yeah, I think they start the season rough. I mean, the first 2 games are obviously throwaways, but then I think they lose the next 4. It's just intriguing storyline for the future. I don't see it happening this year. They've still got Baylor. They've got Texas Tech. They've got Houston. They've got Kansas. Like it's not the hardest Big 12 schedule, but having UNC as a non-con game as well, like that's a lot to overcome there in the first year back for him.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Scott Frost. Oh, I do, because he's a Nebraska coach, so I hated him and was glad.
No, you should love him. He was so terrible. You should love him.
Exactly.
You should have wanted him to stay forever.
I kind of like, I don't know, man. This is total gut feeling stuff of just like Nebraska's kind of been a cursed program, and like I think they're finally coming out of it. We talked about that a little bit in the Big Ten episode, but like man, that was kind of a cursed place, man. And I don't know, man. I think he could be a really great coach, actually. Like, you look at everything else he did at UCF and at Oregon and those things, it's like, man, he could actually be pretty scary in the Big 12 if he actually, builds something there. But yeah, you're right. Not this year. So, yeah,
cool. Oklahoma State, I think this is kind of the opposite story of
the
Utah.
mullet, man.
Utah, we talked about, perennial powerhouse, always putting it together, had a rough year, but I think they bounced back. Gundy, I think the game has passed him by.
Oh, yeah.
I think Oklahoma State is going to be looking at creative ways to release him with dignity at the end of this football year. Zane Flores is an interesting story at quarterback. He's the only scholarship player who's been in Stillwater for more than a full season, which is absolutely nuts to me. I didn't double check that, but that is something that I thought was super interesting. I don't see how Oklahoma State really gets up and competes in very many of these games. I think they have to play Oregon on the road this year. That's, not a great way to start your non-con. Yeah, they get UT Martin. Tulsa could be tough. And then the Big 12, I'm not sure if they'll be favored in more than 2 games.
No, they could easily go winless in this conference 2 years in a row.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll beat Arizona, but that's not saying much.
Insane. Like, honestly, when you I'm going to keep with my theme of like grabbing the Big 12 mantle of like, when you told me Texas and Oklahoma were leaving, I automatically was like, oh, Oklahoma State has the boot. They're T. Boone Pickens, man. Like, T. Boone Pickens money is why they got to where they were. And I was like, Oklahoma State is going to absolutely be a powerhouse in the Big 12. And now we're like, oh man, you got Oklahoma State on your schedule, automatic win. It was the saddest CU game I went to last year was beating Oklahoma State. It was like almost not fun to be there, which is like weird to say because those games were so much fun.
Yeah, the only reason this isn't a play for me, it's that minus 180 on the under, just too much. They have the worst odds. They are projected to be the worst team. One more team to talk about. This is exciting to me. Rich Rodriguez returning to West Virginia is awesome. It just makes me think of Pat White and what West Virginia was.
Yep.
Rich Rod, this is another team with a ton of transfer portal additions, 52 new players. I expect them to run the ball a lot. I really like Jakeem White in DFS or college football fantasy. Their running back. I think he could be super exciting, and he's going to need to be. He's going to be getting that rock a lot. They're going to be creative with the running game because it is Rich Rodriguez. They're probably going to move fast. Their defense is going to have to keep up. I don't see that happening. To me, West Virginia is going to be interesting, intriguing, must-watch football because it is the Big 12. I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of wins. But then again, with all these transfers, to your point about CU, Eric, maybe it does work. One of these teams with all these
I don't think it's crazy.
Work. Yeah. And with a coach like him coming back home, I'm super excited for this West Virginia team in the future. Maybe not this year, but it's super fun that Rich Rod is back.
So Rich Rod was with Jayville State last year, right? The only teams that ran the ball more than Jayville State was Academy Schools last year. Like that's going to be the DNA of West Virginia. Their schedule for me this year is just brutal, man. They pull in conference. They pull Utah, Kansas, TCU, Houston, Colorado, Arizona State, and Texas Tech. The only like team that's in the running that they're missing is Baylor. And I think they're just kind of getting screwed over there. And they've got Pitt as one of the non-con games.
Pitt's going to be tough this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be, that backyard brawl is going to be tough, man.
Absolutely. So I think I kind of lean under just because of that, but you know, they could be one of those, you know, Cinderella shocker teams this year. So I'm not going to have a play on it.
It's going to be interesting to watch with their running game. If their pace of play slows down, like if they're not snapping the ball every 12 seconds, if they slow it down, we should track that early because you're going to want to start smashing those unders because they will be bleeding that clock. But in the past, Rich Rod just plays at such a high tempo that it kind of offsets it. Hey, we got through the Big 12. Why don't we, before we jump into our picks and going through those, just want to remind you guys to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get that. We're Ready Bet Action. You can find us on all the socials at Ready Bet Action. Join us. We are so excited for the football season. There's going to be so much good stuff. And soccer is coming up too. We're almost done with the doldrums of summer. Let's get into our picks. Eric, why don't you take us through your picks to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have, let me give up on the screen here for the folks. So I have Colorado over 5.5. Give me Arizona State under 8.5, and I will take Texas Tech to make the college football playoff at plus 410. That is a full unit. We're not doing a side piece on that, baby. That is a bet.
I love that so much. I'm on Kansas State over 8.5. Utah, no bet, but love the team. I'm on Arizona under minus 110, and I'm on BYU over 6.5. Mikey, what do you got for us?
I'm going to counter that and go BYU under 6.5. Give me Cincinnati under 6.5, Kansas under 7.5, Texas Tech over 8.5, and you guys convinced me to join the CU over game. Give me Colorado over 5.5.
I love that. Hey, we have so much more coming for you. We're going to do the ACC preview coming up here shortly, and then we're going to have some group of 5 and independent play. And then it's going to be week 0 before you know it. So we are going to be with you throughout the season. Again, follow us on YouTube. Follow us wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for listening. For Eric and Mike, I'm Stefan. We will talk to you soon.